We talk all the time about boomers, millennials, and Gen Z. We analyze their every move, right? But there's this whole generation kind of stuck in the middle, the one that seems to exist in the shadows, quietly holding everything together. So today, let's dive into the psychology of the generation we almost forgot to notice, Generation X. Right? It's almost like a trivia question. There's this gap, this group of people who are so often your most competent coworkers, your most pragmatic bosses, or maybe even your parents who seem just a little bit distant. I mean, these are the folks who built so much of the modern world we live in, but you'd never hear them talking about it. And yeah, this is them, Generation X. They were born into that weird space between the massive cultural tidal wave of the boomers and the digital dawn of the millennials. Their whole psychology is probably the most misunderstood of any living generation, and it all boils down to one single shared experience that pretty much defined everything for them. This right here, this is the psychological ground zero for Gen X. And latchkey kid isn't just some cute nickname people came up with. This experience fundamentally wired their brains for independence, for resourcefulness, and for a totally unique way of looking at the world. Just try to imagine it. No cell phone to call anyone, no security camera on the door, no way for anyone to even check if you're okay. You let yourself in with that key on a string around your neck, you grab your own snack, you start your homework, and you just wait. And the wild part? This wasn't some rare thing. For millions and millions of kids, this was just Tuesday. Okay, but look at this number. This is what really puts it into perspective. By 1984, one study found that 7 million children were regularly unsupervised after school. That's not a small group. You've got an entire generation learning a really tough lesson from a super young age. You can't always count on someone else to be there. You got to figure it out yourself. So what's the big deal? Well, it's what that empty house actually taught them. Psychologists call it a high contingency environment. Fancy term, but it's simple. If you burn the toast, you go hungry or you learn how the toaster works. If you forget your homework, there's no parent swooping in to help at 10 p.m. Actions had immediate, unavoidable consequences. It literally rewired their brains to think 3 steps ahead, which, by the way, can look kind of strange to other generations. So you've got this self-reliance baked in at home, and then they step out into the world, and the world just reinforces that same lesson over and over again. If the lesson at home was fend for yourself, the lesson from society was don't trust anyone. I mean, just look at this list. It's like a greatest hits of broken promises. They saw the whole idea of marriage crumble with divorce rates that went through the roof. They watched their parents, who were promised a lifelong career, get hit with mass corporate layoffs. And on top of all that, they saw the government betray their trust with scandals like Watergate and Iran-Contra, all while living under the constant low-level dread of nuclear war. It's no wonder they were hardwired for skepticism. And what do you get when you mix all that together? You get this, what experts call defensive pessimism. Gen X would just call being realistic. It's not about being a downer. It's a survival tactic, a protective armor. You hope for the best, but you always have a detailed plan for when it all goes wrong, because your entire childhood showed you that things, well, they often do. This whole mindset also explains why they have such a different relationship with the internet, even though they helped build it. For Gen X, privacy was the norm. If you made a mistake, it was just an embarrassing story for your friends. Now, a mistake can go viral and follow you forever. They learned early on that being unknown meant being safe. For younger generations, if you're unknown, you might as well be invisible. It's a total reversal of how to see the world. So let's see how all this translates to the workplace. Because it creates this professional mindset that's incredibly effective, but often completely misunderstood. These aren't the people posting about their hashtag hustle on social media. They just put their heads down and do the work. Okay, this right here, this is absolutely key to understanding them. The boomer model was all about loyalty to the company. You work hard, you stay for 40 years, you get the gold watch. But Gen X watched that whole promise just shatter for their parents. So they were like, nope, not doing that. They shifted their loyalty away from the company and placed it in themselves, in their own skills, their own competence, and their immediate team. Security for them doesn't come from how long you've been there. It comes from being so good, they can't get rid of you. And I mean, can you blame them? Just look at this timeline. It's like a history of getting punched in the gut, financially speaking. They graduated into recessions. Just when they were hitting their stride, the dot-com bubble burst. And right in their prime earning years, the 2008 financial crisis pulls the rug out from under them. After getting knocked down again and again, the lesson was crystal clear. The only thing you can ever truly rely on is your own skill set. All right, let's switch gears a little and talk about something that makes Gen X cognitively unique. I mean, their brains literally work a bit differently because they're the very last generation to grow up in a fully analog world before having to adapt to the digital one. Before you could just ask your phone anything, getting information had a real physical cost. I'm talking hours in a library, wrestling with a card catalog, sifting through encyclopedias, just hoping the right book was even there. Information was something you had to hunt for. Today, information is like water from the tap. It's just there. And all that work, all that struggle, it actually did something amazing to their brains. It's a principle called deeper encoding. Because it was so hard to find the information, when you finally got it, it's stuck. You didn't just Google it and forget it 5 seconds later. You owned that information. It became a part of you. And this wasn't just about book smarts either. It was about the real world. If your bike broke or the VCR started eating tapes, there was no YouTube tutorial to save you. You had to get your hands dirty. You tinkered with it, you took it apart, and you figured it out. It gave them this incredible figure-it-out muscle, a core belief that pretty much any problem could be solved with enough patience and maybe a screwdriver. So when you start putting all these different pieces together, the intense self-reliance, the deep-seated skepticism, the focus on competence, that analog mind, what you end up with is a generation that plays a really unique and kind of paradoxical role in our world today. And this really gets to the heart of the Gen X paradox. They are fiercely, almost stubbornly independent, but they're the ones who will just show up and help you move without you even asking. They will almost never ask for help themselves because to them, that feels like failure. They are deeply skeptical of anyone in charge, but they have a profound respect for anyone who is just really, really good at their job. They totally master technology, but they're still incredibly wary of what it's doing to us. You know, this quote just says it all, perfectly. They're the human bridge between the analog 20th century and the digital 21st. They connect the boomer way of working with millennial tech savvy. And what do we do with bridges? We just drive over them. We don't really pay attention to them. We just take them for granted. They're just there, doing the work, holding everything together. So that kind of leaves us with one last big question, doesn't it? In a world that's all about personal branding, constant updates, and showing everyone how busy and important you are, maybe there's a quiet power in the Gen X way of doing things. What can we learn from the generation that knows how to get things done, how to hold it all together, and doesn't feel the need to say a single word about it?